not turning at the moment because of the sticks.
The pupils at our school have countless strengths. Sophia's extremely resilient. She has the highest of aspirations.
What would you like to be when you're grown up?
Be the first deaf Prime Minister.
Wow.
She will teach everybody and anybody that she meets BSL. She's just a wonderful human being, really. All children are valued so that they can believe that they can be the best version of themselves.
Being deaf can influence lots of things. When a hearing child is born, is learning from the environment, right? So you learn by overhearing people, by talking to people, by socializing. When you're deaf and you have this limited auditory access, obviously you miss all this auditory input. So that immediately has an effect on your language, on your speech, on your social emotional development.
How we create positive deaf identity is by providing meetups for the children so that they meet the deaf community of Birmingham and actually of the United Kingdom, by purchasing books that have deaf characters and having BSL across the school as our modern foreign language. I think it's important to create that positive deaf identity so children's social, emotional and mental health is looked after, and actually so they see themselves in the wider world. The biggest misconception is people assuming that they will have the same strengths and the same difficulties.
Hagrid called, who is it, before he let them in. And then
In my class I have a wide range of hearing impaired children, from profoundly deaf to a mild hearing loss. So the needs within school vary completely. There are some children who need us to use science-supported English to support them in class, and there's some children who are able to access the learning orally. Some children have a lot of emotional needs, some children are a lot more confident.
I think he was quite glad to get rid of it, to be honest.
Fabulous. The classroom environment is set up to support the children. I use a pass-along mic when other children are speaking in the classroom. We try to make resources more accessible, so a lot more visual imagery for them to support words that they may not understand. We do a lot of pre-learning for the children who have hearing impairments, and then post-learning, a lot of discussion about what they have learned. The thing I notice about the hearing impaired children in my lessons is that sometimes they miss things. For example, they might miss a funny comment that someone's made across the other side of the room. It's kind and it's important for them to spend a little bit of time making sure that they're always able to access the conversation.
Then we have a Babble Guard. So it is a little light that is placed across our whiteboard, and it is set at a certain decibel, so it measures sound within the classroom. If it is green, that means it's a good listening environment. If it goes to yellow, it means, oh, it's starting to get a little bit too loud. And then if it's at red, it's a no-go. It's a difficult learning environment. So the children use that as a way of regulating the noise levels in the classroom.
Access to learning, learning to access is a dual, as we call it, dual model. In order to support deaf children education, you would need to support them in two ways. So you need to adjust the environment. So this is providing access to learning. The other aspect is that you need to ensure the students you support, they become independent later in life. So you're teaching how to access learning.
So supporting children to be independent. So it's important that they have appropriate scaffolding, but that you get the balance right so that you're not over scaffolding and that you don't create this learnt helplessness. For example, we will make mistakes in our everyday teaching. So I might not turn my transmitter on for example, and I'll say, am I ready? And then I'll wait for them. So it's through giving them opportunities. So you're teaching them the skills that they need, but also giving them opportunities to be independent through that.
Right, so do you remember we made 2 cakes?
So the intervention you observed this morning is called Foundations for Literacy. It's based on the fact that deaf children need the experiential learning to be able to gain vocabulary and reading. The experience which deaf children lack, and you combine that, with vocabulary, with the sounds, this all together can help and support reading.
Oh my goodness me, I've never seen a cake that's so glamorous and beautiful.
How our maths model works, it's a 5-part model. So we always start all of our lessons with manipulatives, because then children are able to use the manipulatives to move into representation, so then they will be able to draw the calculation. So for example, 22 add 13, I can get my 2 10s, my 2 1s, my 1 10, my 3 1s, and then I can represent that myself pictorially. Then I can represent it as an abstract, as the number sentence, and then I'm able to work it out.
So we've had a lot of deaf awareness training. We've had a lot of staff meetings about current research. There's been a lot of CPD where best practice has been shared. The schools offered BSL training to all members of staff. The strategy I use the most is making sure that there is time for them to work independently, and that means preparing resources that will allow them to work independently. And I found that they have made much more progress than me sitting with them. The deaf children need to be as independent as the other children in the class in their learning.
3 key points for teachers who support deaf children are, first of all, how you adapt the acoustic environment so deaf children can have access to sounds. The second, I think for me it's important again that teachers ensuring that these deaf children learn strategies on how to access learning. For example, learning about their hearing loss. What does it mean to have a hearing loss? That's a strategy because they understand themselves and then they can become independent.
I think it's really important for parents to tell us what they do at home to support their children. We have parent meetings, we pick up the phone and speak to the parents. But keeping those lines of communication open with the parents is really important, because I want them to know if they're struggling and make sure that the parents are always up to date with where we're at and what needs to happen going forwards.
My main advice for new teachers working with deaf children would support them to be independent, go at it with a can-do approach, use visual aids, use British Sign Language. Also, one of my key things is try and incorporate as much hands-on learning that you can. Give them real-life opportunities, experiences. Children learn best through hands-on experiences. Thinking about visual clues that we use in the classroom, so using sign language and using visual aids, it gives you a visual representation for a word, but then we also have a BSL version of that, so it will give us a visual image, a picture, but then it will also give us the sign for that word.
I tend to use a lot of the resources and information on the NDCS website. There's a wealth of information for parents, teachers, deaf people, and I find that the most useful.